This is unreal. Maya looked up and caught her reflection in the neon-bounded mirror-tilted ceiling. Her eyes glowed red in the blazing light. For an instant, Maya shivered. The weird radiance in her eyes made her look like one of those undead from the zombie movie. Maya shook herself and quickly shifted her gaze. "Didn't I tell you?" Jackson shouted to be heard above the blaring 80s rock music and pulse around him. He brushed back his locks, took a huge bite of pizza, and looked from Maya to their strawberry blonde friend Noelle, who was gazing in awe on the bright yellow roller coaster track that wove in and out of the luminescent gleaming tubes, entwined like snakes throughout the vast expanse beyond the dining area. Noelle, her freckles standing out in the bright lights, reached for her soda. "I have to admit, I thought Mega Pizzaplex was more hype than reality, but this is pretty cool." She sucked through her straw and bobbed to the music beat, her ponytail swinging back and forth. "Pretty cool?" Jackson dropped his half-eaten pizza. "Slice, this is beyond cool. I can't wait to try the VR booth." "AR booth first, Jack," Maya said. She looked past the string of zipping go-karts and focused on the the glass enclosure near the pizza theme tilt-a-wheel. Every part of the ride was shaped like a pizza topping. The large, bubbling like Boop was on the whole reason she wanted to come here tonight. Jackson rolled his eyes. Yeah, birthday girl, it's all about you." He flashed his signature mischievous grin and nudged Noelle, who gave Maya a goofy look. Maya struck an exaggerated glam pose and checked herself in the overhead mirror again. In the physical lighting flashing around them, her long black hair looked like an oil slick reflecting a kaleidoscope. With her head tilted, her eyes no longer appeared red. They were tint normal dark brown. She thought that between her dark skin and full feature, her red dress and the red rose tucked behind her ear, she looked a little like a flamenco dancer. Maya returned her attention to her friend. She threw a balled-up napkin at them. "Just because I got to go 16 before you two losers is no reason to hate on me." They all laughed. Maya noticed that the bark of their laughter barely made a dent to the clamor around them. The music, loud as it was, complete with so many sounds that so loud as it was hard to distinguish them all. Maya could, however, make out the chatter of the roller coaster on its tracks, the humming of the go-karts, the tiny music, and pings and bleeps in the arcade games, the buzzing sounds of laser tags, and overall, laying it all, the sounds of happy screams and shouts and chatter. Maya's sister, Alina, would hate this place. Maya thought affectionately Alina liked things quiet and peaceful. Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex was the exact opposite of quiet and peaceful. Alina would have hated the bright colored chaos in the Pizzaplex too, whereas Maya loved vibrant jewel tones. Her sister was all about the white and gray and pastel. Maya looked down at her bled red dress and shifted her gaze upon Jackson's bright orange shirt and Noelle's hot pink blouse. She glanced around. Even their bright colors were lost in the rainbow scalp of the Pizzaplex. Maya and her friends were squeezed into the corner booth in the main dining area. The room was huge, but it was so stuffed with shiny red empty top tables and chrome-back chairs that it seemed smaller than it was, especially because every table was filled with various families, kids, and teens chowing down on pizza. Servers clad in red Freddy Fazbear's uniform shirts, with multicolored glow necklace looped around their necks, could barely squeeze through the aisles as they rushed through the room service pizza and drinks. The swinging doors of the kitchen on the far side of the room were almost constantly in motion. Everywhere Maya looked, bright lint color and sparkles, light beam and blink and shimmered. It seems like everything in the Pizzaplex was spectacularly illuminated. LED lights were everywhere. They formed frames around all the tabletops of the flashing Freddy-themed posters on the walls, and not like the squares of the black and white checkerboard floor. Anything not wrapped in highlighted LEDs was brightened by neon. Glowing archway formed an entrance to the dining area and to every other entertainment venue of the Pizzaplex, alternating with the LED-wrapped Freddy-themed posters, neon art shape of the Freddy characters, and pizza wedge blazed bright with red, blue, green, yellow, pink, purple, and orange. The mirror ceilings caught all the lights and reflecting it, sending prisms of colors everywhere. Outside the dining area, in the center of the Pizzaplex dome room, a black-lit pizza-modified glass compelled the center of the room's small ceiling, beaming streams and even more colors down to the constant movement below. Maya thought that the effort was like a ballet of every tint she ever seen. The whole place seemed in flare and flicker and constant motion of dazzling bright hues. "You know, 16 is just a construct, right?" Jackson shouted. Maya flinched when the sparkle of fresh and chew pizza landed on her arm. She wrinkled her nose and brushed it off. She was used to Jackson spilling food across the table. He was so excited when he talked. When he got wrapped up in something, his words were ran together and he forgot to breathe. At the end of his all-too-frequent monologue, he'd been gasping for air. "A person's age isn't real," Jackson continued. "It's just a thought. It exists and depends on the subject's mind." Noelle groaned. "Oh, not again. Can we leave the science and science class?" Maya patted on Noelle's arm in sympathy. However, the truth was, Maya liked science, even when she didn't always understand it. Maya's main interest was biology, specifically botany. She loved growing things. Her mom said she was a born nurturer, but Jackson's muzzling about physics couldn't be fun to watch, too. Noelle frowned at Jackson. "And besides, age isn't a thought, it's an empirical fact. Maya has been alive for 16 years, no matter what her mind had to say about that." Jackson waved it as if squatting away Noelle's words. Maya stared at Jackson's big, dark hand. Jackson was tall and ebony skin. His mother was Jamaican, and his dad was from the deep south. He looked like he should be a star basketball player, but he hated sports. He was all about science and philosophy. He loved to ask unanswered questions and try to answer them for hours on end. But what's alive? Jackson countered Noel's logic. He leaned forward, practically bouncing in his seat. Last night, I read an article about something called quantum immortality. It's a theory that says we never actually die. Noelle looked up at the mirror ceiling as it could only help her. She sighed so loudly not even the cast room around them could silence her explorations. Jackson ignored him. See, it's related to the many worlds theory. No matter which brand of reality you follow, your consciousness is experiencing existence. Each path leads to more existence. We can never experience anything but existence. So we go on and on. Well, you sure go on and on, Noelle said. Maya laughed. Noelle didn't even smile at her own joke. She crossed her arms and gave Jackson a hard look. People die all the time. The idea of immortality is totally whack. Are you telling me that when my uncle died, he didn't really die? Her voice rose at the end of the question. Noelle had been very close to her uncle, and she had been shook and devastated a couple weeks before when he'd been killed in a car accident. Maya briefly touched Noelle's arm gently. Jackson, as typical oblivious to real emotion as usual, didn't notice Noelle was upset. Well, quantum immortality only applies to the observer, so we actually can't know for sure if he's really dead. I mean, his consciousness could have been branched on a path that hasn't led to his death. No one has seen what the end game would look like, because the observer hasn't been there yet. So what seems real to us may not be actually real. So Maya, noticing Noelle's darkened expression, poked Jackson. Are you done eating yet? I want to head over to the AR unit. Jackson glanced at his empty plate. He looked surprised to find it pizzaless. Noelle exhaled as if blowing out her upset. She cocked her head and pointed at Jackson. Pizza is a construct, you know, Noelle said. It only exists in your mind. Jackson grinned. Touché, girl. He offered Noelle his fist, and she, half apparently forgiven him for his insensitive bump his fist with hers before she stood. Maya, Jackson, and Noelle linked arms as they left the VR booth and stepped into the frogs rushing from one entertainment venue to the next. Noelle squealed when she bumped into the employee wearing a Monty Gator costume. The pufferscent green Gator mascot patting Noelle on the head and moved on. Roxanne Wolf is a great character, Jackson gushed. Did you see? Maya tugged on his arm. Yeah, we saw. Hey, I let you drag me into the VR booth, and now it's my turn. Come on, the AR booth is this way. Jackson resisted her. He pointed at the line towards the entrance of the roller coaster. I want to go in the Fast Freddy, Jackson said. It's supposed to have all the latest in roller coasters high tech. Jackson pulled a brochure from his pocket. It says that each car has a touchpad, and you can pick your own music, 5 genres to choose from. There are 28 LED lights programmed to change colors throughout the ride. Jackson pointed past a long past line, and see, it was moving to loading platform. It never comes to a complete stop, he waved the brochure, as it has cameras, some on board and some on tracks. Laser-triggered timing devices and computer records that images and creates a video that syncs whatever music you pick. The video is downloaded and sent to Kiosk. Jackson pointed at the small hut-like structure that was covering in the looming lights. It's all done in under a minute, so you can get the ultimate souvenir to go. Now that would be a great birthday present, don't you think, Maya? Jackson inhaled deeply and refilled his lungs. Roller coaster cars careened past overhead. Maya felt a rush of air brush against her face. The screams of the coaster riders hurt her ears. She shook her head. Later, AR blew first. Jackson hung his head. Then he blew elaborately. Whatever thou dost saith, milady. Maya laughed. Jackson's southern accent destroyed his attempt of Old English. Come on, she urged her friends. Noelle and Jackson followed Maya's lead. She tugged them away from the roller coaster entrance and on past the giant swings and bumper cars. At first, Maya hadn't been that into the idea of celebrating her birthday at the Freddy's Pizzaplex. When Jackson had showed her the advertisement for the place, she thought they were over the top, that they were lame. She had to admit that Fazbear Entertainment knew how to make money. Before the Pizzaplex big opening, the company sold thousands of mini hologram projections at super discounted prices. And the first thing that project display was a holographic glam rock Freddy doing his spinal. Hey kids, do you want pizza? Well, Freddy Fazbear Entertainment has spared no expense developing the world's most extreme family fun center, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex. At 3 stories tall, it's the flashiest, rattiest, rockinest, safest pizzeria the universe has ever seen. Of course, Freddy and the band are excited to meet you. Utilize the latest in animatronic technology, you can actually party with the stars themselves. So on your next birthday, let Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex make you a superstar. It's the perfect place to celebrate your sweet 16, Jackson had said. Maya has resisted Jackson's pitch even when he listed all the entertainment possibilities. Of course, they have a stage for the animatronics performance, and they have a arcade and laser tag, he told her. But they also have a feeder, giant swings, and slides, and climbing tubes, and riding, including a dope roller coaster and bumper cars, and state-of-the-art electric-powered go-karts, and a sweet carousel. Oh, and the carnival games. Maybe I can win you a plush, Freddy. Be still, my beating heart, Maya had replied. When Maya had kept shaking her head, Jackson had talked even faster. They also have a sick VR booth and role-play venues. Oh, and they have this AR unit especially for birthdays. It's their premier attraction because Freddy has always put an emphasis on celebrating birthdays. I know what VR is, but what's AR? Maya has asked despite herself. Jackson's eyes had lit up. He loved explaining things. AR stands for Augmented Reality. It's a way of crossing the real world with the virtual world. Basically, objects in the real world are enhanced by computer-generated perceptions. The ones in the Pizzaplex are supposed to be really awesome ones. It uses all sorts of sensory modalities, visuals, auditory, stemmo sensors, olfactor, and even haptic. Haptic? Maya had questioned. Haptic means to grab onto something. Basically, the AR unit on the Pizzaplex lets you reach out and grab things that aren't even really there. AR basically plays with reality. The tech that can also constructive and deconstructive, meaning that it can add things in the physical world or subtract things. Whereas VR completely replaced reality with a simulated one, AR is a mix of the real and the virtual. The AR unit in the Pizzaplex is called The World Celebrates You. It gives you illusion that everyone in the Pizzaplex is taking part of celebrating you. Basically, it's like having a massive birthday shining without all the money and the trouble. It's the ultimate way to spend a birthday. That was what convinced Maya to go with Jackson's idea. Even though she knew her family and all her friends would celebrate her birthday, she also knew it wasn't going to be a huge deal. Her family didn't have the money for the swing dig like she wanted. She sounded pretty neat for the whole Pizzaplex full of people partying with Maya at her birthday, so they were there, and she wanted to go to get her party started. Maya and her friends had been in the Pizzaplex for a few hours already. They wandered at first, and then they eaten at Jackson's assistance, and then they gone to the VR area, again, at Jackson's assistance. During this time, Maya had gotten a pretty good sense of the place. The Pizzaplex was set up in a circle. In the center of the circle, ramp led down in a black light enclosure created with the littlest kids. The cave-like area was filled with glowing climbing bars, slides, and flown building blocks. All this was set up around the glittering ball pit. Bland benches for half-watchful parents surrounding the area. Above this, the rain play area, the gusro two-story feeder roundtop erupted like a fairy tale castle under the stained glaze cupola. The rest of the entertainment venues and shops, of course, in the Pizzaplex created Freddy-themed clothing, costumes, souvenirs, and toys. Ringed the Pizzaplex between these venues and feeders. The go-kart tracks crisscrossed over and under the walkways that led from one part of the Pizzaplex to the other. Several VR booths were spaced along the walkways. And above everything, the roller coaster tracks intertwined with the climbing tubes. The both systems all looked like serpentine modern art installations, or a hovering serpent waiting to devour all the people bustling about beneath it. Maya dragged her friends throughout the crowd, yanking on Jackson as he tried to veer towards the roleplay area. Her gaze was set on the prize, the AR unit. It was only a few yards away, and it was closed, Maya exclaimed. Maya stopped so abruptly that Jackson ran into her. Noelle plowed into Jackson. The two grunted and glared at Maya. Then they looked at the direction of her gaze. The AR unit looked like a giant snow globe, only without the snow. Its base was bright red, and inside it clear, thick glass. A throne-like gold upholstered chair sat in the center of the clear bubble. A flashing neon sign blinked above the circle glass. The world celebrates you. Neon stars and streamers around the words. Unfortunately, another sign was attached to the bright yellow tape, similar to a crime scene tape. Stretching across the entrance of the AR unit, the sign reads, "Closed, under construction." Under construction? Maya snapped. How can they make a big deal about premier attractions and not even finish it before they open? That's false advertisement. Maya turned to scowl at Jackson. You said I'd get my big party. Jackson's usually anime expression was slack as he looked at the closed AR unit. His shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, Maya. I didn't know. Noelle hugged Maya. Come on, it's not big of a deal, is it? You got us. And she swept her arms out and indicate all the commotion in the Pizzaplex. It's not like there's nothing to do. Maya blinked away tears that had come out of nowhere. She felt like a spoiled brat for being so upset. And she didn't want to cry in front of her friends, but she was so disappointed. She really looked forward for using the AR. Maya growled at the closed sign. Then she set her jaw and took a deep breath. She looked around. No one was paying attention to her and her friends. She made up her mind. She rushed forward and ducked under the yellow tape. Noelle gasped. Maya, you can't go in there. Maya stepped over the tire slope and looked back at Noelle and Jackson. Looks like I can. Are you coming? Noelle shook her head. She glanced over her shoulder and looked up. Maya followed Noelle's gaze. A huge mirrored curved enclosure loomed above the large area marked employees only. The space looked big enough for a house for all behind-the-scenes office and machinery that must have gone into operating something as elaborate as a Pizzaplex. It was clear the mirrors were two-way, and the elevated enclosure was where security kept an eye on the Pizzaplex. Obviously, abide by the dozens of CCTV cameras Maya hasn't noticed everywhere that she and her friends had been. Maya was sure a bunch of self-important low-paid employees were paying Big Brother up there. Yeah, they could be watching. But she didn't care. They can come and drag me out off if they want, Maya said. I'm going in. Come with me or don't. Noelle and Jackson exchanged a look. Jackson shrugged. What's the worst they can do? Throw us out? He looked longingly at the roller coaster, then shrugged. Again, we can always go home and work on our science project. Noelle blew a raspberry. As if. Noelle turned her back on her friends and entered the AR booth. She only had a few feet into it before she heard Jackson and Noelle rush in behind her. This is cool. Jackson circled the chair, then bent over and examined it. There's a processor under there. He gestured at the glass that's around him. The glass will display that adds on what you see through the dome now. He reached down and picked up the hovering-looking headband that has been laying, almost hidden, on the chair seat. This looks like a sensory device, see? He held the handband and indicated the electric work of nodes that inside of it. I think this will augment your senses to make your experience feel real in every way. I think the way it works is, whatever, Maya said. She started to the chair and grabbed the handband. If security had seen them enter the AR booth, she didn't have much time. She took the seat. Maya slipped on the headband and she looked around. Nothing had changed. How do you turn it on? Maya asked. Jackson bent down. He filled it with something. Suddenly, the glass walls in the AR booth disappeared. Maya could see directly out the huge expanse of the Pizzaplex, and it was filled with birthday balloons, streamers, and piles of birthday presents. It was also filled with hundreds of people blowing noisemakers and cheering. It was as if everyone in the Pizzaplex had stopped to focus on Maya. All the adults and kids on the walkway were turned to look at her. All the people in the dining room were gazing her way, their glasses raising. Their rides were still in motion, but all the people on them were craning their necks to see Maya as they zipped past or spun around. Patrons in Employees alike were smiling toward Maya as if she was the most important person on the planet. Surprise! They all shouted in unison. Mel felt a thrill of importance as she gazed out the crowd. Then she teared up again when she spotted her family. They were all there, her parents and Alina, her aunt Sophia, and her uncle Raphael, her aunt Lucina, and Uncle Peter. She saw all her cousins, even her favorite, little Axel. She saw her neighbors, the Davis twins, were jumping up and down, waving at Maya. And the Thompsons' 3 kids held a big happy birthday banner. Even old Mr. and Mrs. Labbert, the grumpy couple who lived across the street and from Maya's home, were in the crowd. Mrs. Labbert held up a plate of her award-winning coffee cake, grand prize winner at the country fair for the 20 years straight, dear. Maya's love of the coffee cake was what had endeared her to the otherwise confidentially couple. Maya saw her favorite teacher, Miss Carpenter, and her mistress, Pastor Ben. He saw all the members of the choir and her classmates from school. Everyone was wearing party hats. And everyone looked at Maya's birthday was the happiest day of their lives. As Maya strained to try to pick out the people she knew, the crowd parted, and Glamrock Chica, her bright pink dress shining under the bright lights, came into view heading towards Maya. She pushed a big cart. The cart had a massive 6-tier birthday cake, frosting and creamy icing and decorating in red candy roses, Mandy's favorite flower, 16 huge candles flickering on top of the cake. Maya realized she was smiling so widely that her cheeks were starting to hurt, but she smiled even wider when Freddie's band started a basic rock version of Happy Birthday, and everyone started singing along. Mel reached out and grabbed Niles and Jackson's hand. See, it wasn't offline after all. Happy birthday, Maya. Noel hugged Maya, then stepped back so Jackson could follow suit. Maya smiled at the cherry scent of Noel's shampoo and the smell of Jackson's pizza breath. She understood that the scene in front of her wasn't real. The Pizzaplex couldn't have suddenly transformed into a birthday party in her dreams. All the people she knew didn't just beam magically, and the ones she didn't know, of course, wasn't interrupting their fun to make such a big deal of a total stranger, but it felt real. And the familiarity smells of her friends encored her what was really real. The combination of real and not was heady. It spun Maya out of herself and into the fantasy of throttling laughter. At first, it felt like Maya was just watching a celebration around her. But as it continued, she was no longer an observer. She was drawn into the party, as she would have been if it was real. After Freddie's band finished the happy birthday, everyone started chanting, "Make a wish, make a wish." Maya grinned and imagined having this moment last forever. Then she blew out the candles. Their smoke spiraled upward as everyone cheered. Maya laughed in delight. Freddie's band started playing one of Maya's favorite rock songs. Jackson grabbed Maya's hand and she spun her into the crowd, with backed up and forming a circle around a makeshift dance floor in the center of the walkway. Jackson and Maya weren't a couple. She thought of him as more as a brother than a friend. But the two of them had always danced well together. Maya had some serious moves. Jackson had some serious moves, and Maya was naturally graceful. As they started popping to the saxophone beat of the song, they slid into the series of intertwined steps that they never practiced, but they had to look choreographed to their audience. Maya felt like a dancing queen as Jackson whirled her and dipped her and even flipped her over his shoulders. When the song ended, the crowd went wild, and more couples filled in the open space as the new song began. They danced and danced and danced. Maya didn't know how much time had passed when Jackson, sweaty and grinning like a maniac, led her through the crowd to the cake. There, Glamrock Chica handed Maya the gleaming knife, which might have looked scary in any other setting, and Maya cut into the second tier of her glorious cake. She got the first piece, and she nearly fainted in bliss when her teeth sank into the moist pistachio and buttercream flavor perfection, her favorite flowers. Several employees rushed out to help hand out cake. They all hugged or high-fived Maya as they passed her. She didn't know any of them, but they all acted like they'd been long-time friends. The music was still blasting, and the crowd was still laughing and dancing and chattering. Maya felt a little like a bouncing beach ball as she was passed from one group of revellers to another. She was hugged over and over. She received kisses and pats and love yous from her relatives. Her favorite kiss was from sweet little Axel. The lip smack was wet and sticky from the sheer of the frosting of his mouth. Time continued to expand and compress into an odd and disorienting way as Maya suddenly found herself skating near the massive pile of brightly wrapped presents. Her mom, after whispering that Maya's special present from her grandparents would come later as usual, began handing Maya the presents, and she opened them one by one. Most of the presents were wrapped in flower-themed paper. Everyone knew how much she loved flowers. All the gifts inside the festive packages were things she loved. She received vibrant colored clothes, stacks of romance novels, and books of gardening, music, and CDs of her favorite music, makeup and jewelry, stuffed teddy bears, posters, and prints of flowers, and cute kittens, scented lotions and soaps and candles, a portable keyboard, a new guitar, and finally a new laptop and a camera. These were to help her photograph and catalog of flowers she grew, her mom said. The gift opening seemed endless. Maya actually started feeling guilty. She was sure that watching her open presents had to be bottling for everyone else. Whenever she looked up at the people surrounding her, though, they appeared to be enjoying themselves. They were totally attentive. Maya couldn't imagine a more perfect birthday celebration. She wanted to last forever. Maya Jackson Noodle ducked under the tape and looked out the monstrous group of kids and families enjoying the Pizzaplex. "I can't believe this looked like my birthday party a few seconds ago," Maya said. "I told you it would be great." Jackson beamed as if he designed the AR unit himself. Maya leaned to him. "Yes, you did, and you were right. I can't believe we didn't get thrown out of there," Noel said, looking at the security booth. Maya followed Naya's gaze. She frowned. Noel had a point. Surely they had cameras in the AR units. Someone must have seen them. Maya shrugged. "Whatever, I'm just glad I got my big party." "Now, can we go to the roller coaster?" Jackson asked. Maya laughed. "Yeah, let's go to the roller coasters." The friends linked arms again, and they headed for the roller coaster line. As they made their way through the rush of happy people, Maya felt like she was a lot more floating than walking. Her virtual or augmented or whatever birthday party was the best birthday celebration she hadn't ever. It wasn't that she didn't appreciate the birthday picnics her family usually organized for her, the potluck affairs that were always held in their yard and always included basic sheet cake and a cheap piñata, but she wanted the kind of party she just had in the AR unit. Now she had one. She was a happy girl. I admit that the coaster is flashy looking, Noelle said as they queened for the ride, but I don't see why a 3-story roller coaster can be so much fun. It won't get high enough. She gazed at the roller coaster's apex. It's not the height that makes it thrilling, Jackson said. It's the speed and the loop-de-loops and the other things. What other things? Maya asked. You see, Jackson said in an ominous voice. More ha ha. Noelle rolled her eyes. It can't be that scary. But it is. But it was. Maya and her friends didn't have to wait long before they were the next one in line for one of the yellow and red striped cars coming forward the continuing moving loading area. The cars were big enough for 3 people if they didn't mind a tight fit. So Maya and Noelle followed Jackson to one of the cars. They pulled the safety bars tightly over the chest, as instructed, and as soon as the bars clicked into place, the car disappeared into a dark tunnel. Rock and roll, right? Jackson shouted as he reached for the touchpad in front of him. The pad was the only thing light up the blackness. Always, Noelle yelled. Throbbing bass notes ushered in the screeching guitar riffs, and the car picked up speed. As accelerating into the turn, a giant pirate fox suddenly loomed in front of them, raising a gleaming hook. The hook swiped the striped steel at their heads just as the car jerked to the left. Maya and Noelle screamed. Jackson whooped. The car swung around the tight loop, then shot upward and flipped over, whipping them, upside down, into another U-turn, before suddenly flipping them back over and climbing. From the point on, the ride was a blur for Maya. Every few seconds seems like another Freddy character, lining up brightly and larger than life, appearing out of nowhere and scared them silly. After the third jump scare of sharp animatronic teeth sweeping towards her face, Maya closed her eyes. From that point, the ride was a mayhem of motion and sound and light flashing behind her eyelids. Thankfully, it was seemingly as fast as it started. It was over seemingly as fast as it started. When the car slowed, the safety bars released, and Jackson jumped out of the car. Noelle champered after him. Maya brought up the rear, staggering. She was sure that the ride had stolen some of her bones. Her legs felt like jellyfish tentacles. Wasn't that the boss? Jackson shouted as he grabbed Maya's and Noelle's hand. Let's go to our videos. He pulled them towards the little nook near the coaster's exit area. A couple minutes later, they had their custom videos. Maya wasn't sure she ever looked at hers. She didn't need to watch a closed-eye version of herself being terrified. At the 100 miles per hour, or however fast they'd been going, Jackson had kept yelling over the speeds during the ride, but Maya had ignored him. Now what? Jackson asked. Maya shook her head. Your choice, Jax. She'd come here tonight for the AR birthday party, and she'd gone that. She didn't really care what they did now. It was after 10 when Maya pushed open the back door to her family's small, bright kitchen. She hanged her keys on the peg by the turquoise retro fridge. Her parents, as she expected them to be, were sitting at the multicolored tile top table, sipping hot chocolate and playing a game of cards. It was their sometime pre-bedtime routine, and Maya suspected it was a good excuse for them to wait up for their teenage daughter to get home. Maya's mom drew the card and simply smiled at Maya. Have fun, sweetie? Maya grinned. It was great, even better that Jackson said it would be. You won't believe everything they have there. Maya stopped. She'd been about to tell them the AR unit, but to do that, she'll have to tell them about the dream party, which everything she ever wanted at a birthday party. She didn't want them to think that she didn't appreciate the parties they had for her. Did you go on the roller coaster? Maya's dad asked. I read about it. I bet it's pretty cool. Maya laughed. You sound like Jackson. He couldn't stop talking about it. Maya held out a videotape she got from the Coyce. Here's a video of our ride. You can see me screaming, closing my eyes as tight as I could possibly get them to close. Maya's mother shook her head. Oh, that sounds like fun. Her words were dripping in sarcasm. Maya went to her mom and gave her a hug, laying her cheek against the top of her mother's head. She closed her eyes and soaked in the smooth softness of her mom's short black curls, peppered with gray. Her mom smelled like jasmine, as always. Maya straightened, then stepped around the table and bent over to give her dad a quick hug. The top of his head wasn't soft. He kept his thinning hair into a buzz cut, which felt like a big burl against Maya's chin, but she didn't care. She loved her dad, and the way he always smelled like ink and toner. Maya let go of her dad and turned to the gas stove. Like the fridge, it too was turquoise and styled to look like a holdover from the 50s. She knew there would be enough hot cocoa for her left in the pan. She poured into the mug and joined her parents at the table. She took a sip of the rich chocolate. Deal me in the next round. Absolutely, her dad said. Maya smiled as she watched her parents finish their hand. For the 1,000th time, she thought about how lucky she was to have such great parents. Her mom, dark and petal and pretty, was a grade school teacher, but they always had plenty of time to take care of her family. Maya's dad, his plain face greased with smile lines around his eyes and mouth, ran an office supply and print shop. He worked long hours, but he somehow always made Maya and Alina feel like they were the center of his world. He spent time with them every day. As her parents finished their hand and her dad dealt out the cards for the new hand, Maya thought again about the AR unit party. She wasn't sure why it had been so important to have that experience on being on focus on everyone's attention. It wasn't like she was neglected. Maybe it was that her parents were so laid back that nothing ever felt like a huge deal. Sometimes Maya wanted things to get excited instead of just happy. Maya picked up her cards. For now, though, breathing in the aroma of the chocolate in the mug in front of her and gazing at her parents' content fan, she was okay with happy. After a half hour or so of cards, Maya kissed her parents, said goodnight, and headed down the narrow hallway to the bathroom. She took her time in the hall, pausing to gaze at thousands of framed family photographs that covered the walls. Of course, the photos have always been there for years, but the party had remained Maya of all the people who loved her. She wanted to linger over their image for a few seconds before brushing her teeth. When Maya finally got to her room, she didn't even bother to change into pajamas. She was suddenly wiped out. She just fell back on her twin bed. She hit the mattress with such a big whomp that the bed frame scooted along the wood floor. Alina sat up at her twin bed stuffed into the small room. What? In the muted yellow glow of the dome nightlight, Maya could see Alina's face was grumbled, and her curly black hair was entangled. Sorry, Al, Maya said. It's just me. Time is it? Maya rubbed her big brown eyes, ones that looked just like Maya's. Late. Maya hopped over her bed and moved to Alina's bed. Scoot over. Alina grumbled, but she scooted. Maya cuddled her next to her sister and wrapped her in a hug. Maya savored the soft warmth of her sister's funnel-chat shoulders as she looked around their small bedroom. Containing just the two beds and one nightstand, along one dresser and a table that served as a desk for both of them, the room had been Maya's and Alina's domain for their whole lives. Maya remembered when the room had painted pink and the bed sheets had been white and friggly. Now half the room was painted Maya's favorite color, red, and half the room was painted gray. Maya's red sheets had a rose design. Alina's was plain blue. Maya thought of all the presents she received at her big birthday party. She smiled. It was a good thing they hadn't been real. How could they all fit all the stuff in this tiny room? Too bad the AR couldn't have conjured up a big house for her and her family. But that was just silly. Maya loved this compact home. It was filled with happy memories. How could a new big house compete with that? What's going on? Alina asked. Maya laughed. It was my birthday, that's all. Alina squinted at the glowing blue numbers at their clock radio, which sat in their sharp nightstand. Not for another 42 minutes and 15 seconds. Maya laughed again and squeezed her precise sister. Close enough. Besides, I already had my big party. Alina frowned. But I wasn't there. Yes, you were. Everyone was. It was the best birthday ever. Alina wrinkled her brown nose and made a face at Maya. She wiggled free from Maya's embrace. You're weird. You're weird. Alina rolled her eyes and fell back in the bed. Get on my bed. I need my brain sleep. Maya smiled. Maya's mother was always telling her girls they needed their beauty sleep. But cerebral and not concerned with beauty, Alina took issue with that. She said she got brain sleep that helped her to be smarter. Whereas Maya has gotten looks, Alina had gotten brains. Alina might have been shorter and paler than Maya, but what she lacked in beauty she made up for in smarts and confidence. Alina was a year behind Maya in age. She was years ahead of Maya in education and accomplishments. Maya was content to be a teenager. Alina was in a hurry to be an adult. She was a math whiz. In the following year, she has gotten to be enrolled into a local college. Maya wasn't envious at all about Alina's brilliance. In fact, Maya was super proud of Alina. Maya was content to be a Maya, and she celebrated Alina's Alina's-ness. It had been, however, incredibly nice to be the center of attention at her Pizzaplex birthday party. Maya didn't usually get to shine like that. It was an experience she was never going to forget. The next day, Maya's family threw her the usual birthday party on the porch and grass in front of their house. Because the house front yard was small, the party always spilled into the streets and into the neighboring yards. Even though decorations were minimal, the giant oaks and weeping willows that sheltered the small house in the neighborhood provide all the beauty Maya could have asked for. Maya's birthday was in May, apparently inspired by her name. And it was always warm out this time of year. As usual, redundant hummingbirds and fluttering yellow monarch butterflies were flitting around in the flower beds at the base of the porch rails in front of the Maya's house. They were better than balloons. This year, besides the customary simple happy birthday banner strung across the front of the house, the decor had also included a Sweet 16 sign Maya's youngest cousin has made. The big cardboard signs were lettered with crayons and decor with glitter and childlike drawings of red and roses. The piano was a usually vague-shaped horse from Maya didn't even like horses. The cake was a big, flat chocolate one with a stained Happy Birthday Maya written in the store-bought tube icing. The celebration couldn't have been more different than the one in the Pizzaplex. The only similarity was the presence of all Maya's family and friends and Miss Lambert's offering of her award-winning coffee cake. The cake was actually welcome. Maya preferred the apple and crumb-topped cake to the chocolate one her family always had for her. Thanks for coming, Mr. and Mrs. Lambert, Maya said as she went in to sit with them. They had brought their own folding chairs and had them set themselves up under the garden oak near the street. They watched the party as if it was a war instead of a celebration. Deep frowns ached between their brows. Mr. Lambert said predictably. I hope you enjoy my award-winning coffee cake, Miss Lambert said. It was delicious, as always, Maya told her. She wanted to hug the old lady, but Mrs. Lambert erect posture and stiff shoulders were as good as keep-away signs. Maya left the Lamberts and headed back towards the porch. As she crossed the yard, she rubbed her temples. This morning, when she got up, her forehead had hurt, right where the couple of the AR headbands knots had touched her skin. She figured the headbands had just irradiated her skin, but the pain felt more like a mild headache now. Hey, birthday girl, Noelle called out. Maya forgot about her headache and joined her friends. After the birthday cake had been cut, Maya and the other kids and teens took turns swatting the piñata. As always, the Davis twins, towel-headed Wesley and Wendy, swinging in unison, were the ones who cracked the papier-mâché open. Then they fought each other for the first grab of candy. Everyone else hang back. The tall and grunty 13-year-olds' competition were infamous. It was best not to get in their way. Although this party did have a small table of gifts, the presents opening wasn't as local point of affair. Maya's mom always emphasized the gifts were optional. Present is much more important than present, her invitation always said. She knew that people in Maya's neighborhood and her school weren't well off. The custom of Maya's family parties was for the birthday celebrant to be open a present here or there, if the person giving the gift wanted to see it open. As usual, the most eager of Maya's gift givers were the Thompson kids. Donnie, 10, Parker, 6, and Aurora, 5, were Maya's 3 favorite kids, after her cousins, of course. She she was their fatigued babysitter because of their parents, still pretty young because they married when they were 18 and had Donnie a few months later. Hadn't yet grown out of their need to party. They were clubbing regularly. They were great parents, though, and Miss Thompson was an awesome baker. Maya loved lingering in the Thompsons' pristine kitchen after the couple got back from their dates. Stinkerdoodle time, Mr. Thompson would say, and Maya said to the Thompsons would eat one of the big soft cookies while Mr. Thompson told jokes. His favorite jokes were typically dad humor. Knock knock, Mr. Thompson had said a few nights before. Maya had to answer dutifully. Who's there? A packa. A packa who? I packa the luggage, you packa the car. Maya and Mrs. Thompson had grown in unison. Mr. Thompson had always managed to make Maya laugh several times as he walked her home. The cookies and the jokes were great, but the couple paid Maya well, too. For the last 3 years since they moved in the house down to Maya's home, the Thompson kids had made Maya's birthday presents. The first years, they gave her bookmarks made of tongue depressors. Mrs. Thompson was a nurse, and crayon and glitter decor brown lunch bags that looked like they were already made use. Last year, she got a necklace made out of pipe cleaners. This year, the kids had gone all out. They made her a scrapbook construction from more brown lunch bags and filled with glue-on buttons, strings, and photos of the 3 kids. This is wonderful, Maya gushed when they insisted she open their present. I picked out the buttons, Pugnose Aurora announced. She beamed with pride, and her brother snorted. Well, you did a good job. I appreciate all the effort you put into it, Maya told them. The kids accepted her thank you hugs and scrambled off to see if Wesley and Wendy had any candy behind. Maya appreciated everything about her birthday party, and she had a great time playing with her cousins, especially little Axel, Aunt Sophia, and Uncle Peter's youngest. Axel was a pugly-faced 4-year-old with dark eyes and a grin that never disappeared. Maya loved babysitting him. He was obsessed with party cake, and they played it so long that Maya's palms were sore when Axel finally got drowsy enough to curl up in her lap and go to sleep. When Aunt Sophia, her long braids looped on the top of her head and a curious knock picked up her youngest son, she kissed Maya on the forehead. Feliz cumpleaños, mi sobrina. Thanks, Aunt Sophia. Maya grinned when Sophia raised an eyebrow. I mean, gracias, tía Sophia. Maya's grandparents had come to the U.S. before they had children. Sophia, Lucina, and Maya's mother, Violeta, they learned English right away, and they made sure their 3 girls were bilingual from the start. The same was true for their grandchildren. Between them, Maya's mother and aunt had given Maya material grandparents 12 grandchildren. Sophia and Peter were responsible for 6 of those. Lucina and Rafael had 4 kids. Maya's mother brought up with her 2 girls. Recently, Sophia had become obsessed with celebrating the family's Puerto Rican heritage, and she was taking Spanish lessons. She was insistent that Maya learn too. Maya humored her with the occasional phrase. Thankfully, Maya's parents weren't as interested in their ancestry roots. Mostly, we're Irish, but I think we had some Chesney, some Greek, some Wesley in us. Maya's father had told her when he asked about it, she was glad no one was obsessed with the heritage. She couldn't even imagine trying to learn Gaelic or even more difficultly, Czechoslovakian. She was also glad that her father was an only child. Not only that didn't love her cousins, she did, but family gets-togethers were chaotic enough, even without more kids running around. After Maya's aunt and uncle and cousins left, Maya and her parents settled into Maya's grandparents around the small bonfire in the backyard. It was the family's tradition of the grandparents giving their grandchild a special birthday present after the party was over. Maya always loved this part of her birthday, just as she loved her grandparents. Maya's 2 sets of grandparents couldn't have been more different. Her mother's parents were dark-skinned, short, and round, their face lined from years of smiling, their hands colors of years of working. They ran a construction business. In their early 60s, they could both wield a hammer as well as their youngest employees. Even Maya's grand could dive a nail into just 2 strokes. Maya's father's parents, on the other hand, were tall, pale, and soft-looking, self-professioned, aged hippies. Nana and Pappy were artists, and the only thing their hands revealed were the colors of paint they used in their latest creations. They looked younger than their 16-some years, and they sound even more younger than that. Oh, you're 16, Maya, Pappy said now. Right on. He patted her knee. Maya noticed the age spots were joining in the freckles in the back of Pappy's head. Pappy reflected the Irish part of her dad's family background, whereas her dad had black hair. Pappy has dark urban. Because this is a special year, sweetie, Nana said. We're all chipping together to get you something, well, special. She looked at her husband and at Gran and at Gramps. Isn't that right? Gran nodded. She pulled a small red velvet pouch from the pocket of her gym bed or apron, which she hadn't removed even after she left the kitchen hours before. She held it out and Maya took it. Maya pulled out the porch string and she turned the pouch over. A thin gold chain with a delicate gold rose pendant fell in the pouch. Oh, Maya gasped. It's beautiful. Nana elbowed Pappy. I told you she'd love it. Pappy shrugged. He winked at Maya. I voted for one of those video game competitions. I thought someone your age would want something more techy. Maya shook her head. I had techie already, Pappy. She smiled widely as she thought about her virtual birthday party from the night before. This is perfect. Alina helped Maya put the necklace on, and then hugged her sister. Happy birthday, big sis. Maya's parents and grandparents hugged Maya in turn, and they were done. Maya's dad, firelight making the scalp look showing through his thinning buzz cut appear to shine, get out his guitar. Maya and her parents and grandparents sang old folk songs for the next hour, until Alina said her brain needed to sleep. When Maya settled under the covers that night, listening to Alina's snores, her sister always fell asleep in seconds, Maya pressed her fingers to her forehead. The slight headache had nagged her off, and all day was throbbing more intensely now. Was the pain related to her time in the AR booth? No, Maya thought. It was probably just a coincidence. She was simply over-tearing. Maya closed her eyes. It really had been the perfect birthday. She had her big party and her traditional party. All was well in her world. Maya closed her eyes and relaxed into sleep. When Maya looked back toward the end of everything, she couldn't easily pinpoint when it all started to go weirdly wrong. She remembered the first shock, of course, but at the time it didn't seem like a strange. Sad, yes, but not strange. After all, it wasn't usual for a 62-year-old woman to get breast cancer. And it wasn't unusual for them to lose their battle with a disease, even after weeks of chemotherapy and radiation. Besides Grand's cancer diagnosis, nothing out of the ordinary happened in the year following Maya's 16th birthday. Things were pretty normal, except for Maya's recurring headaches. The headaches, though annoying, had never been serious enough to tell anyone about them. Secretly, she wondered if the AR booth headband had done some kind of nerve damage. However, since the booth had been closed when she used it, she didn't think it had any right to complain to anyone about it. Besides, the pain was low-grade and intermittent. She told herself it was nothing. Maya's 16th birthday was nothing like her 16th. Maya's 17th birthday wasn't nothing like her 16th, though. Although Grant tried to insist that the party go on as usual, no one was in the mood to celebrate anything. By the time before Maya's birthday, Grant was like a transparent copy of her old self, as if someone was shaking hands had tried to transfer her likeness onto flimsy tracing paper. On the night of Maya's 17th birthday, Maya wasn't sitting around a bonfire with her parents, sister, or grandparents. Instead, she and Gramps, Maya's parents, her sister, her aunt, and uncles and cousins, clustered around Grant's bed in Grandpa's living room. Grant had insisted on passing away at home, so they turned the previous cozy and comforting room into a sick room. It was a room barely large enough to contain all the people who come to say goodbye to the wasted woman in the narrow bed. And it was a room not nearly big enough to contain all the love the family had for this woman, who was close to taking her last breath. The room was also independent to hold the grief that was born and grew into its full structure the second Gran was gone. Later, as Maya and Elena clung to each other in Dea's bed, Maya asked, "Why Gran? Why not mean old Mr. Vance down at the street? I saw him kick his dog once. He's a jerk. Why not him?" Elena hugged Maya tighter. "It doesn't work like that. There isn't some good or bad list like Santa has. It's biology and chemistry and DNA and it's BS. It's BS, Elena. It's just..." Maya burst into tears. She touched the gold rose that hang on her neck. She hasn't taken off the special necklace since she put it on. She held it tight now, as if by holding onto it she can hold on to her Gran. When Maya finally crawled into her own bed and tried to settle into a sleep later that night, she wasn't relaxed at all. All was not well in her world. She just lost one of her favorite people on the planet. Who would be next? The answer of Maya's question came within just a few days. Pappy was diagnosed with cancer next. It was his brain, and it was growing fast. He was unable to care for himself within a month of getting his diagnosis. Maya and her extended family took turns doing everything for Pappy. Before Pappy reached the end, Gramps got his diagnosis. "He's not going to fight it," mother said to Maya's dad the day they got the news. Maya and her parents were at the dinner table, picking at plates of spaghetti. No one had an appetite. Maya's mother, though, was stoic. Her eyes were dry. Maya, on the other hand, felt like she was drowning in tears. She had trouble breathing, too, as if a big toll had settled on her chest and was squeezing the air out of her. Why is this happening to her family? As Maya got ready for bed that night, Alina sat in front of the computer they shared. If it was just Gran and Gramps, Alina said, tap a few keys, I suspect something kept genetic in their building systems, but it's Pappy too, maybe his paint. Maya looked over her sister's soldiers as Alina clicked the mouse. A display shift on the article of the words page under construction. Alina sighed dramatically. "I'm going to bed," Maya said. Alina said, and clicked the mouse to open a new search window. For the next several nights, Alina stayed up night researching the cause of cancer. Maya wasn't good at research, so she spent her spare time reading to her grandfather. Pappy, of course, didn't understand her anymore, but she knew he was aware of her presence. Gram kept telling her she would stop wasting her time catering a dying old fart. You should be out on a date, he told her several times. Maya tried to remember the last time she cared about going on a date. Just a few months before, she had a crush on a junior varsity quarterback. Now, when she looked at his carefree grin and his tousled hair, she just felt annoyed. Wrapped up as if she was with her sick grandparents, Maya didn't pay any attention to what was going on with anyone else. It was only after Nana got cancer and died, just days after Gramps and Pappy were gone, that Maya matured from her grief fog enough to notice that people all around her were getting the dreaded disease. Mr. and Mrs. Lambert succumbed not long after Maya's grandparents passed. Maya hadn't even known they were been sick until their grown children showed up to the close-up and sell the house. Maya felt bad when she found out. She hadn't been over to see them since Grant had gotten sick. Weirdly, she vaguely remembered what would happen to Mrs. Lambert's award-winning coffee cake recipe, but she didn't think about that for long. Mr. and Mrs. Davis were diagnosed next, then Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Maya hadn't even noticed she had been asked for babysitter for a while because she's been so preoccupied with her grandparents. When she found out they were sick, she went to see the Thompsons, and she offered to help take care of them and the kids. She did the same for the Davis family, running back and forth between the two homes and her own took up all her free time after school. At school, she barely conscious. However, she was aware enough to notice that she was hearing the word cancer far more than she would have been. My brother was admitted to an extra award last night, Brian, the vastly head cheerleader, said to her crew as Maya scuffered past their table for the noisy cafeteria. We're taking care of my sister at home, Brian's best friend, Mackenzie, said. The hospital said the incubator word was full. Actually, there aren't any beds in the whole hospital. When people go to the ER, they park the beds in the hallway. Brian had no response to that. The other girls at the table were equally unconcerned. Maya stopped and stared at them. They didn't notice her. Did you try the new masquerade I told you about? Brian asked one of the other girls. The girls, the pretty blonde, fluttered her eyelashes. Can't you tell? Everyone at the table admired the girl's long lashes. Maya shook her head and took her tray over to the table where Jackson and Noah were already seated. Maya flopped into the plastic chair and slammed her tray on the scared lemonade top table. She gestured towards the cheerleader table. Can you believe them? They're acting like it's no big deal. Like what's no big deal? Now asked. Maya frowned at her friend. All the cancer. Jackson shrugged. My mom was diagnosed last week. Maya's mouth dropped open. I'm so sorry. You didn't say anything. What's to say? Jackson said. He dug into the chili in his tray. The puncher scent of tomato and onion filled the air. Y'all want to go to the Pizzaplex this weekend? Apparently the new animatronic show is pretty incredible. Maya stared at Jackson. He shifted her gaze to Noel, who was nibbling at salad. Noel was totally relaxed. Seriously? Maya said. The word came out high-pitched and too loud. Jackson and Noel frowned at Maya. Several kids at the neighborhood tables turned and looked at Maya with raised eyebrows. Maya lowered her voice and leaned towards her friend. Why are you acting like everything's normal? Jackson and Noel exchanged a baffled look. Jackson gasped across the table. Because everything is normal? Maya slapped her hand on the table. The funk cut through the chaotic conversation and the ticking cutlery sounds in the room. For a second, the sound stopped and several heads rolled to Maya's way. Maya ignored the sanctuary. She kept her voice low and steady when she spoke again. Haven't you noticed that it seems like everyone's getting cancer? My Aunt Sophia was just diagnosed. My Uncle Raphael was diagnosed a month ago, and my grandparents have all died of it in the last 13 months. It's weird. Something's going on, Jackson asked. Cancer sucks, for sure, but there's nothing weird about it. Mel opened her mouth to argue, but what was the point? She picked up her tray and stomped out the cafeteria. She no longer wanted to hang around with her friends. They were clueless. She couldn't stand looking at their carefree faces. Over the next few weeks, Maya saw less and less of Jackson and Noel. Summer arrived, and her friends got jobs at the local burger joint. Maya didn't have time for a job, so she split her time between the hospital where she sat with her aunts and uncles. Aunt Lucia and Uncle Peter had cancer now, too, while they received cameo, and her aunts and uncle's house where she would help care of the older cousins, 4 of them who are now dying of cancer. She also still helped out the Davises and the Thompsons. Maya spent her days making food, changing sheets, emptying bedpans, and dueling out medications. She spent her night tossing and turning and listening to Elena snore. When Maya's grandparents had gone sick, Elena had been a contributory to Maya's needs for answers, but Anaya had long since stopped going to the library. When Maya would ask her why so many people were dying of cancer, she'd just shrug and stick her nose back into the latest math textbook. Maya sometimes thought of her trying to figure out what was going on with herself. Although she didn't like doing research, she knew how, but when she did have the time, she was too busy taking care of sick people. One afternoon in late August, just days from the start of Maya's senior year, Maya finally got a bit of good news. Her favorite teacher, Miss Carpenter, had her first baby. Noelle stopped by to tell Maya about it. The girl stood in front of the washer and dryer in Maya's house. Maya's father had been sick for a month because her mother was focused on caring on him. Maya was now doing everything else in the house, the cooking, the cleaning, the shopping, the laundry, even paying the bills. She wasn't sure how much longer she'll be able to do that. Her dad's chemo treatment was making him really weak. How long would he be able to keep working? How'd you hear? Maya asked, and she and Noelle folded the sheets. My mom was in a hospice ward at the hospital. When I got bored sitting with her, I got to the nursery to look at the babies. Maya wanted to call Naya out of the offhand way she talked about her mom's condition, but she also wanted to more focus on something hopeful for a change. A new baby was hopeful. Is she still in the hospital? Maya asked. Miss Carpenter, that is. Noelle shook her head. I think she and the baby went home. Noelle's eyes lit up. Do you want to go see them? Maya nodded. She doesn't live too far from here. Let's ride our bikes. It took only 15 minutes for Maya and Noelle to pedal the few blocks to Miss Carpenter's house. They reached a small cottage-style home just as the summer storm cloud released a downpour of thunder rumbling across the sky. They dropped their bikes in the narrow driveway and secured in the covered front porch. When they knocked, lining up the sky behind them, thunder sounded again just seconds later as Miss Carpenter opened the girls. Girls! What a surprise! Miss Carpenter wasn't a whole lot older than Maya and Noelle. She started teaching in Maya's sophomore year. She was a tall, slender woman with wavy brown hair and bright green eyes. She could easily have passed for a teenager, even now standing in her entryway holding a blanket bundle on her shoulder. Maya craned her neck to get a glimpse of the child. Congratulations, Maya said. We came to see your baby. Maya held out a bunch of roses she picked up from her backyard right before she and Noelle had to hop on their bikes. With everything that was going on, Maya hadn't had time to tend her flowers, but they seemed to be taking care of themselves. The peach-colored blooms in Maya's hands were healthy and fragrant. As she held out the flowers, it suddenly occurred that Maya brought something for the baby. Oh, I'm sorry, Maya blurted. We should have brought a toy or something for her. Her? Or him? Miss Carpenter backed up and motioned the girls to come in her room, to come in her house. They stepped into the cramped but tidy living room. It was bright, with white walls and yellow, uplush furniture. The room smelled like lemon-furnished polish, and the whole house smelled like a fresh brewed coffee. This surprised Maya. She'd been in her aunt and uncle's homes after each of her younger cousins had been born. Their house always smelled like a mixture of dirty diapers and tails and spit up and sweet milk. It was what Maya thought as baby smell, a distinct scent that seems to come from infants. Her, Miss Carpenter said. I name her Celia. She stopped in the front of the small stone fireplace. Would you like to hold her? Sure. Maya accepted the bundle Miss Carpenter offered her. Pulling the baby close to her chest, Maya inhaled and smelled. Nothing. And she took another sniff. Nope, not a single thing. That was weird. Maya shifted the baby carefully, carrying the baby's head in one hand. With the other hand, Maya pushed back the blanket that swapped the infant's face. Maya gasped, and she almost dropped Miss Carpenter's baby. Miss Carpenter's baby? Maya gasped in horror at the thing she was holding. It was all she could do not to thrust it back on Miss Carpenter and run screaming to the house. Swallowing hard, aware of the sweat trickling down her spine, Maya looked at Miss Carpenter. Miss Carpenter beamed at Maya, then looked with pride and joy at her new daughter. Maya shifted her gaze to Noelle. Had Noelle seen what Maya was holding? Yes. Noelle was looking right at the baby's face, but really there was no face to look at. There was a head, yes, but the head was featureless. It looked like unfinished see-through doll head. Struggling to keep her expression composed, Maya started rocking back and forth she was holding a real baby. With a quivering voice, she began singing a lullaby. Noelle started talking to Miss Carpenter about feeding schedules, and Maya turned away from her friend and her teacher. She correctly peeled back the blanket so she could see a hole of the thing in her arms. No, this wasn't a baby. She didn't know what it was, but it was no baby. Smooth and limp, like a jelly-filled, lifeless rag doll. The floppy content of the baby blanket was an insert mannequin baby contained in a revolting, slick, transparent skin. Beneath the skin, the very faintless outlines of pale blue filaments extend throughout the thing's body. It looked like veins, some sort of. Other than these barely predictable strains, the thing's field was as clear as its outer covering. The summer before Maya and her friends had visited the Pizzaplex for AR birthday celebration, Jackson had dragged Noelle and Maya to a sci-fi movie about cloning. The thing Maya held reminded her of her unfinished clones. It wasn't an infant. It was like a placeholder for the infant. "Shall I take her?" Miss Carpenter said. Maya's whirled around. She tried to find her voice, but she couldn't. She silently nodded and returned the less thing. Being. Creature. Not baby. That was for sure. Maya handed Celia to her mother. "Can I get you girls a snack?" Miss Carpenter asked. "No, thank you." Maya just as Noelle said. "Sure." Miss Carpenter looked from Maya to Noelle. Maya frowned at her friend. "I need to get back home," Maya told Miss Carpenter. "I have a lot to do." "It was sweet of you to visit," Miss Carpenter said. "Celia likes to be the center of attention." Miss Carpenter looked down at as if the baby was the cutest thing in the world. "Don't you, little one?" Miss Carpenter nuzzled the baby's smooth, flat, squishy face. Maya felt nauseous. We need to go. Bye, Miss Carpenter." Maya grabbed Noelle's hand and pulled her friend out the teacher's house. In the driveway outside, Maya snuck in the air that smelled like ooze and damp earth. The thunderstorm had left as quickly as it arrived. The ground was soaked, and the sun's warmth was turning the wetness into steam that drifted away from the dirt pavement like infinite ghosts. Maya leaned over and held her stomach. She felt dizzy and weak. "Are you okay?" Noelle asked. Maya straightened. She sought now with a baffled look. "Didn't you see that?" "See what?" "Celicia? She's a cute baby." Noelle studied Maya. "What's wrong with you?" Maya didn't have time to think much more about Miss Carpenter's baby. The rest of that day. Well, that wasn't true. Even though she was busy, Maya really couldn't think of anything but Miss Carpenter's baby, and Noelle's immediate reaction to her. But it creeped Maya out so much she forced herself to focus on something else every time the image of a droopy, dollish infant thing entered her mind. By the end of the day, she convinced herself she's imagining the whole thing. Besides, the news got her over dinner, shoved aside everything else. Her mom now had cancer. They gave Maya this news calmly as Maya's mom dished out beef stew and her father handled around the bread basket, a basket containing of rolls that remained Maya and Celisa's featureless head. Nope, stop it, she told herself. She was not going to think about that. Maya handed the basket to Lena without taking a roll. Maya wasn't hungry anymore. She picked up her spoon and swirled it around her stew, making circular patterns in the tranquil scent broth. Her parents were going to die. How could they sit here eating as if everything was okay? Why was Alina chattering about her upcoming college class? Maya dropped her spoon with a chatter. "Alina, stop it," she snapped. Alina froze with the baby head. No, babe roll halfway on her mouth. She lifted her eyebrow. "What's your problem?" she asked Maya. "How are you going to be able to go to school if mom and dad are gone?" Maya asked. She looked from Alina to her parents. Maya's dad patted Maya's head. "Oh, don't worry, sweetie. You and Melina will be fine. I know it seems like we don't have much, but we've been saving. There's plenty of funds to get you both through school, and this house is paid for." Maya's dad returned to peaceful eating his stew as if he was just discussing a day's thunderstorm. "This is wonderful, hun," she said to Maya, "as usual." Maya's mom smiled. She picked up the bread and offered to Maya. "Are you sure you don't want to eat the roll, sweetie?" Marat whipped up to her chair, covering her mouth, and ran from her room. She barely made it to the bathroom before she threw up. Does she have cancer now, too? No, Maya didn't have cancer. Her mom took her to the hospital the next day. Doctors ran the usual tests. Maya, unlike most of the world's population now, was fine. Although fine wasn't the right word to describe Maya at all. There was nothing fine about her. Maya was a wreck. Although school had started again, it wasn't the way Maya had envisioned her senior year. For one thing, most of the regular teachers were dead or dying. Half of her class was sick. Maya's favorite active choir was canceled, and as were most extraordinary activities, there weren't enough participants, and even so, no one acted as if anything was wrong. Maya never liked watching the news. No one in her family did. They preferred talking about happy events and doing fun things than keeping up with what's going on wrong with the world. But lately, Maya couldn't stop watching the news. She found herself glued to the TV screen whenever she was within range of one. It was like watching a car wreck. It was horrifying, but she couldn't help herself. The news memorized her not only because it was doom and gloom, although in fact the news was the exact opposite of the panic that would be reasonable for the current situation. Instead of the somber reports of illness and death, news provides slightly updates on the numbers of people diagnosed, being treated, and dying. It was like watching a ticker tape of cancer slides, all scrolling across the screen and backdrop of upbeat instruments, music, and newscasters dripping narration. Around 342,128 people died in China yesterday, Bob. A poofy, hairy female news anchor announced as it giving a football score. "How are things in Europe?" "Similar, Pam. The last count was 312,572, Bob responded. "Britain has passed a mass certification law to handle the large numbers of deceased. As freaky as these emotionless reporters were, though, they weren't what kept Maya awake at night. Her eyes weren't glued open in the darkness because of the cancer. Not even her own sick family kept her awake. No, what kept her from closing her eyes were the babies, or really the not babies. She couldn't stop thinking about the unfinished, vaguely pale-shaped things that were now passing for newborns in the world. Miss Carpenter's Celia was the first one that Maya saw, but now she knew that Celia wasn't an apparition. All new infants looked like Celia. None of the babies were normal. And worse than that, not only were they not born normal, but these new children aren't growing normally either. A couple days after seeing Celia for the first time, Maya had gone to the pharmacy, skirting around a sidewalk under construction sign. Maya had spotted Miss Carpenter's getting into her car. "Hi, Miss Carpenter," Maya had called. "Hi, Maya. How's Celia?" Maya had asked, just to be polite. She didn't really want to know anything about that thing. Miss Carpenter called her baby. "Oh, she's great," Miss Carpenter had said, and she gestured towards the passenger seat of her SUV. Looking past Miss Carpenter, Maya had glanced at the bundle she expected to see strapped into a baby carrier. But what she saw in the passenger seat wasn't a baby-sized bundle. It was a child-size... what? Mass? So unstructured that it was little more than a vaguely human-shaped outline. The thing that Miss Carpenter called Celia was a drooping pile of gooey material spilling over the edge of the passenger seat. Unmoving, the child thing drooped across the letter lifeless. And it wasn't lifeless. How could it be? It had more than quadrupled its size in just 2 days. And Miss Carpenter clearly didn't think this was strange. She probably didn't think it was strange because these inherent mannequin creatures were everywhere now. Maya couldn't go anywhere without seeing one of the nauseating things in some sort of development. By Christmas, Maya's parents were enclosed in hospital beds in the family living room, with IV drips in their arms. They lay their hands linked, watching old movies while Maya ran around trying to keep up with the care. Their care and Alina's care. Alina was sick now, too. She was the last of Maya's loved ones to get diagnosed. Jackson and Noelle were dying. All Maya's cousins were dying. Mr. and Mrs. Davis were gone. The twins were on their own, and they were sick and dying. Mr. Thompson has already died, but Mrs. Thompson was hanging on, barely. She's now dying, and now her children were sick and dying, too. Everyone's dying. And the Jellyfell doll babies were being born right and left, growing, it seemed. Faster and faster with each passing day. Unsettling numbers of them have started showing up in public. They were amassing in parking lots, accumulating in street corners. They didn't move around. They were just laying in chumps, like mounds of humanoid-looking debris, stacking up because no one was removing it. Maya couldn't understand why the mounds were getting bigger and bigger. Where were they coming from? A couple days before Christmas, Pastor Ben visited the house. When Maya opened the front door hesitantly, dreading that she'll find one of the new neighbor's children, aka doll things, laying in the porch, she was beyond relieved to see her minister smiling at her as if he didn't have a care in the world. Maya threw her arms around the broad-shouldered man with unruly blonde hair. "Pastor Ben, you're still alive!" Maya hadn't been in church in months. When was there time for church? Besides, she'd seen on the news that church would have been turned into clinics for the dying. "Still kicking," Pastor Ben chuckled. "Apparently it's not my time. Yet." Maya looked closely at Pastor Ben, and she realized he was sick too. His skin had the same gray pallor she was seeing in everyone she knew and everyone she didn't know. He'd lost a lot of weight since she'd seen him last. He looked like a human hanger for black shirt and slacks. His white linen collar was now 2 sizes too big for him. Pretending that all was well, Maya opened the door and ushered Pastor Ben into the house. She motioned toward the living room where her parents were weakly but gamely singing Christmas carols. Pastor Ben smiled widely as he greeted Maya's mom and dad. "What a joyful noise," he exclaimed, as if it was perfectly normal. Pastor Ben grabbed a dining room table and pulled out next to Maya's dad's bed. Then he joined the singing, adding his fully ring tone to Maya's mom Freddie's story and her dad's raspy tenor. Pastor Ben motioned to Lila, but she didn't have a single "fla la 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 la" in her. She gave him a wan smile and said, "I got to..." She ran from the room before she could finish. She was in the kitchen making a peanut butter sandwich for Lena when Pastor Ben wandered in a few minutes later. She looked at him and dropped a knife she held. "What's going on, Pastor Ben? Why is everyone dying?" Pastor Ben lowered himself on the kitchen chair. "It's not for us to ask why. We're given each day to live, not to question." "But what about those things everywhere?" Maya asked. Pastor frowned in confusion. "Things?" Maya gestured towards the street. "The jelly people." Pastor Ben still looked lost. Maya threw her hands experientially. "Those things that look like dolls made out of silicone inside plastic wraps." Pastor Ben shook his head. "The Lord doesn't distinguish life based on its appearance. All life is sacred." "But those things are lifeless," Maya shouted. "They're just..." "Is that peanut butter?" Pastor Ben interrupted. "I could use a sandwich. It seems like I never have time to eat, what with all the funerals and baptisms." Maya goggled at her minister. "You baptized those things?" Pastor Ben smiled. "It's part of my job, Maya." Maya shook her head. What more could she say? She felt like she was in a sinking ship and no one but her knew it was going down. No matter how much she ran around trying to sound the alarm, everyone continued to do their business as the world as it should have been. Sighing, Maya put the sandwich she'd been making for Lena on the saucer she handed to Pastor Ben. She patted her hand in thanks. Lifting the sandwich, Pastor said, "The world is a paradox, Maya. A balance of good and bad. People are dying, yes, but life is prophesization. Not only are babies being born in precision rates, but there's also growing in abnormalcy and then adults in a matter of just days instead of years. Tragedies and miracles tend to go hand to hand." Maya didn't even try to argue with Pastor Ben about his use of the word babies. He was seeing what he wanted. He's seeing what wasn't there. Or maybe she was the one seeing what wasn't there. Were the jelly beans real? Yes, they had to be. Maya wasn't imagining nothing to conquer up those horrible things. Over the next several days, Maya tried to find the miracles Master Ben was talked about, but it was hopeless. The minister was as delusional as everyone else. One night, late after Maya had cleaned up Alina's vomit, emptying her parents' bedpans, and sung her mom, whose pain was no longer manageable, to sleep, Maya went outside to her dormant flower garden. Sitting in the little wooden bench her father had made for her a few years before, she started to brilliant, bloomless stalks and tried to remember the lively colors that used to fill the yard in summer. As soon as she tried to picture the flowers, she realized she was having trouble seeing colors at all. Everything was so faded and gray now, the sick and the dying. They were holeless shells, and the new mannequin things, they were just sheer vessels, filled with nothing but limp gel like human-shaped jellyfish. She'd done many times since her world had started falling apart. Maya felt for her gold rose. She held it tightly as she leaned back and looked up the constellation. Although the world beneath them no longer shone brightly, the stars still sparkled in the opposing span of night sky. Maya blinked as she looked at the stars. She inhaled sharply and sat up straight. Sparkle had triggered a memory, a reminder of the AR unit in the Pizzaplex. That's all it had all started going wrong, wasn't it? Maya put a hand on her temple. The barely perception head pain that was daily companion had begun this morning when she was in the AR booth. But what did that pain have to do with everything else? Maya tried to remember when her Grain was first diagnosed in cancer. She couldn't recall how long after her birthday it was when Grant got sick. She probably didn't remember because of the time. It wasn't noteworthy. Of course, it was upsetting and sad, but it wasn't in any way peculiar. What if? Maya? A weak voice called out. Maya let go of her gold rose pendant, jumped up, and dashed into the house. Was that her mom? Or Alina? She ran first to her mom and found her asleep. She tore down the hall into her bedroom. Alina was reaching for a plastic bin of the nightstand. Maya grabbed it and positioned it under Alina's chin, as she held her sister's hair while Alina threw up in her upteenth time that day. Maya hesitated herself for taking the time to sit outside. She didn't have the luxury of sitting under the stars, and she didn't have time to ask what if. All Maya had time for the next day and the next was running around from one sick family member to a friend to the other. She no longer bothered to go to school. There were only a few classes available anyway. She wouldn't have left the house at all if she could have helped it. She hated being out of the streets. The jelly mannequins were all over now. They seemed to be multiplying faster and faster. They cluttered up the stoves and blocked the sidewalks. There were knots of them everywhere that Maya had to go. And how did they get where they were? Maya had never seen one of them things move. They had limbs, but the limbs didn't seem to work. They could only lie around. They didn't talk either. How could they? They didn't have mouths. They didn't have organs or blood or brains. They weren't human. They were just pretending humans. Explicitly growing objects that never grew into anything that actually functioned. And they didn't have to just grow, they multiply, on their own. One day, on their way to Jackson's house, Maya nearly crashed her bike when she saw one of the transparent creatures suddenly produce a smaller transparent creature. Maya wasn't close enough to things, thankfully, to see clearly what happened, but it looked like the news. Unyanked life slipped out a larger one like an infant coming out of the birth canal. Maya clapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. How was this possible? The piles of jelly beings were birthing more jelly beings. Don't you think it's bizarre? Maya asked Jackson, who sat next to his bed one afternoon. She was trying to get him to swallow a protein drink. Jackson's parents had died weeks before, so had his older sister. He hadn't let that bother him. I can take care of myself. We're all having to do that now, right? After he buried his family, he gone as if everything was hunky-dory. He still read his science and philosophical books. He still danced to music blasting from his boombox. But then he got sick too. He's gone downhill fast. Jackson managed to sip the vanilla protein shake Maya offered him, but he merely spit it out. The store vanilla odor made Maya's nose twitch. Maya tried again, but Jackson weakly pushed the bottle away. What's bizarre? He asked. His previous deep voice was barely audible, and it was scratchy, like his vocal cords were caught in brambles. All that things out there. Maya waved her hand towards the street. As she turned away, she caught a glimpse of several of the gossamer jelly creatures piled up outside the window. Maya looked towards the window and shrugged. All experiences are valid, he coughed. Blood strained his lower lip. Maya reached out and wiped Jackson's mouth. She looked at the clock. He had to go and check on Lena. But what about Jackson? He could no longer take care of himself. Neither could Noelle. Her family was gone too. Maya had been racing from her house and Noelle's to Jackson to several of her neighbors' houses for days. Only her parents, her two youngest cousins, and her sister were left in her own family. She moved her cousins into her own house so she could watch over them. I had to go, Maya asked. I'm not sure my parents are going to last the rest of the day. Maya set the protein drink on Jackson's nightstar. Drink this when you can. It occurred to her that she just talked about her parents' imminent death without crying. She figured her tear drugs had dried up. I'll be back in the morning. Maya checked Jackson's IV. She quickly replaced the bag dispensing his medication. She might have ran out of tears, Maya thought, but she gained more nursing skills than she ever expected to have. When she started caring for all her sick friends and relatives, she could barely handle the cleaning duties without getting sick herself. Now she could only wipe up puke and pee and whatever else the body needed to expel without batting an eye. On top of that, she could now give painless shots and easily switch out IV kiffers. Miss Thompson had taught her how to do that before the woman got so sick she couldn't do anything else. Maya thought back to when she used to have dreams of her future. Sometimes she thought about being a doctor. Sometimes she thought about being a biologist or botanist. Now she didn't think about being anything. All she could do was be there for the people she loved. And she had to move if she was going to be there anyone left in her care. Maya leaned over and kissed Jackson's forehead. One of his greasy locks brushed against her cheek. Don't worry about me, Jackson rasped. Go take care of your sister. Jackson's eyes fluttered closed. He was asleep. Maya adjusted his covers, then left his house. Skirting the jelly people, she cycled back home. By the time Maya returned to her house, she was shocked to find nearly surrounded by moles of mannequin things. There were so many of them in the road, on the sidewalks, and on the alleyway behind the house that they seemed to be more like organisms instead of several individual sacks of translucent jelly. Maya barely managed to squeeze past the barrage of the things that got in her front door. Inside, she slammed the door claws and bolted. Then she ran to the front window and bolted the blinds. It was only after plunging the room in total darkness that she turned to check on her parents, and she realized she wasn't hearing what she should be hearing. For the past few days, her parents' breathings have been plasmid and labored. They inhale as if sucking through the straw, and they exhale in a watery rapidly that Maya could barely stand to listen. The sound of her struggling to get air had been relentless, and it seemed to echo throughout the house, reaching Maya no matter where she was or what she was doing. But now that sound was gone. Maya switched the lamp and crossed to her mom's side. Her mom was still, her eyes open and glazed. Maya, gently closed her mother's eyes. Shifting her gaze to her dad, Maya saw that his eyes were already closed, but he was just motionless. He was gone too. Maya wanted to linger by her parents' side, but she didn't have time. She'd been gone too long. She needed to check her sister and her cousins. "I love you, Mom and Dad," she whispered, and then she ran to her parents' bedroom. Maya had put her youngest cousin in the parents' queen-size bed. She surrounded him with pillows so that they couldn't fall out the bed. Now she picked up Axel and held him close. His cheeks were no longer purply. He hadn't smiled in a long time. He was still accepting milk or juice from his favorite froggy sippy cup. Maya quickly got up to the cup and nudged the cup's opening to Axel's mouth. As she urged him to drink, she checked on his sister, April, who was 5. April had always been a tornado of a child, whirling constantly because she loved to dance, or whipping from one activity to the other. She'd never been able to stay still. Now April barely moved. Her usual perky and shiny pink tones were limp and leatherless. Maya had wanted to wash April's hair for days, but feeding April and her brother and the others, Maya had left to care for took precedence. "April, niña," Maya said. The little girl's eyes fluttered open. "Can you get something?" Continued to hold out the sippy cup for Axel. Maya tried to hand a small container of pudding to April. April closed her eyes and screwed up her face. She shook her head. At the same time, Axel reeled back the sippy cup and threw up all over Maya's chest. Maya quickly settled the boy in the bed and made sure he didn't aspirate any of the vomit. She cleaned up as best she could and then hurried to the bedroom. Pulling off her shirt, Maya washed herself off. She left the bedroom and headed towards her bedroom. Grabbing a t-shirt from the back of the door, she pulled it on. She made a face that she got a whiff of sweat. This shirt wasn't much cleaner than the one she'd just taken off, but she was out of clean clothes. She hadn't time to do laundry in. She couldn't remember the last time. Alina's laying limply in the bed and moaned. Maya rushed to her side. Checking the IV stand, she saw that Alina's amputation bag was empty. She was in pain. Maya reached for a new bag. That's what she realized there wasn't one. She'd forgotten to restock the supply. She had to go back. When it became clear that medical personnel couldn't keep up with all the sick and dying, the government had set chemo-free dispensers in every town. If you had insurance, you could just pick up medication and administer it yourself instead of going to the chemo wards, if you were well enough to get it. Maya was the only one left in her family in her neighborhood who was strong enough to go anywhere. The last time she'd been in the dispenser, she tried to stock up with enough for everyone she was helping. Obviously, she hadn't gotten enough. After giving Alina as much water as she accepted and trying unsuccessfully to give Axel and April more food, Maya had grabbed the car keys and headed out to the garage. The dispenser was too far away for a bike ride, and besides, the jelly people made bike rides harrowly. It wasn't that these partially formed human insects were dangerous. As far as Maya had been able to tell, the empty beings that looked like vaguely human-shaped clear water balloons were vegan. They didn't have enough substance to be malevolent. And even if they were, what could they do? They couldn't move. But their existence was enough to creep Maya out. The things that were very wronglessness sent shivers girdling around Maya's spine because they were so unnaturally. The doll people unsettled Maya as if she stopped to think about it. Maya fully accepted them to become a threat sooner or later. The sheer volume of them was chilling. How long would it have been before they covered the entire surface of the planet? She made sure she didn't stop to think about that very often. In the garage, Maya started her family's minivan before she hit the garage door opener. If the jelly people were heaping in the driveway, didn't want to risk them spilling into the garage before she can get the van going. Maya barely waited for the garage door to clear the top of the van. She put in reverse and hit the gas. She feared several eerie mannequin things were in the driveway. Well, she plowed right over them if she needed to. Maya backed hard out the garage and hit the opener button again, because her gaze was on the road behind her. Maya wasn't sure if any of the jelly things slopped into her garage. She figured if they did, she'll deal with that later. Once she had the van in the streets, she was ready to easily navigate through the collections of dummy sacks. Besides the mannequin things, the streets were mostly empty. Nearly everyone was either sick at home taking care of the sick. Nearly everyone was either sick or at home taking care of their sick. Maya only sat a few cars as she navigated through town. The rest were parked in driveways or tucked in their garage. Some were in parking lots, and most of them a lot were empty. People were dying, but they weren't dropping dead where they stood. That was what was weird about everything. It wasn't like a zombie apocalypse or anything. There wasn't a virus or a killing chemical releasing in a foreign country. It was cancer. And although the disease was killing people quickly, everyone had time to get to a hospital or in their home to die. That was when Maya's community would now look like a ghost town, quite literally. The doll things, if you ignored their jelly constitution, the fact they didn't go anywhere, were uncannily similar to specters. But Maya knew they weren't ghosts. They weren't anything, actually. They had no heart, no emotion. They had no spirit. They were just globs of nothingness in a plastic container like human leftovers. When Maya had first seen Celia, the baby's head had been reminding Maya of her family's dinner rolls. Now she saw a jelly thing as more uncooked doughs than a finished product of any kind. They were like battered waiting to go in the oven and get baked. Nearly to the dispenser, Maya's way was blocked by a road under construction sign. She started to make a right turn to detour around it, but then she barked and stared at the sign. What was with all these under construction signs she'd been seeing? Maya frowned. Her mind flipped back to the other signs, staring at the one that had been in front of her, the AR unit. She tapped her fingers on the steering wheel as she tried to attach meaning on how often she's been seeing signs. Her brain, however, couldn't come up with any concentration idea about it. Finally, she shrugged and shook her head. She got the car moving again. Maya was able to drive the rest of the way to the dispense without incident. There, it was a little bit more challenging to avoid the aggressions of jelly things that came into the flat roof industry building, but she managed it. There was only one woman left on duty behind the desk. She didn't appear to be too much older than Maya. She might have been a college student before all this had started. She'd probably been pretty. Now she was obviously sick herself. Her eyes were sunken, and her complexion was the color of ash, brushing a strand of oily brown hair from her face. The woman waved back at Maya's attempts to fill out the right paperwork. Just take what you need. The woman's voice was barely a whisper, like tissue paper rustled in the cabin. Maya didn't argue. She filled the tote bags she brought with her with many interration bags of medication as she could stuff in them. Then she rushed out the building. In the parking lot, Maya was shocked to see that several piles of jelly people now ringed the outmost rows. Had they been there when she arrived? Had she just not noticed them? Maya didn't stop to consider the question because one large pyramid of jelly people were now close to the minivan. She ran to the vehicle, threw in the tote bag, and slamming the door shut. She had the engine turned on over in the van in gear just as several new jellyfish rumbled on the nearest pile and landed near the front of the bumper. She backed up fast and tore out the parking lot. Purposely, Maya kept her gaze straight ahead. She wasn't going to look in the rear view to see what was behind her. On the way home, Maya considered stopping by the grocery store. She filled the kitchen with canned soups, carton of pudding, and bottles of protein drinks. And when she figured she would add what she had, when she got to the store, though, the parking lot was nearly buried with jelly things. They were everywhere, like jiggling container-less gelatin. She couldn't face even trying to make her way through the pouring mass. Maya headed back to the neighborhood. Maya's steer was thick with the particular creatures when she reached it. Her gaze down the road to her house. They looked like a driveway that turned into a massive heap of jello. She looked to her right. The van was bleeding in front of the Thompsons' house, and only a few of the mannequin things were lying around two-story structures. Maya was trying to take care of the last surviving member of the family. Donnie, she figured she might as well leave the car there and ran to check up on him. She could hopefully jog home behind the houses, keeping away from the many jelly people as possible. Maya pulled into Thompson's driveway. She quickly got out of the car, slinging her tote bags of medication across her body. Running around behind the house, she let herself in the back door, closed it, and locked it behind her. "Donnie, it's me," she called out. A weak groan answered her. Maya set the tots on the kitchen table. She sighed as she glanced around the dirty, neglected room. Gone were the shining surfaces and well-ordered pans and utensils she used to see in Mrs. Thompson's domain. The sink was piled with dishes. The garden counters were smeared with stains. Maya didn't have to think about what fluids they were. The room smelled putrid like spoiled food. Maya tried to remember sitting in Thompson's kitchen, eating stinker noodles and listening to Mrs. Thompson's bag knock-knock jokes. Maya could almost hear him now. Knock-knock. Who's there? Cancer. Cancer who? Cancer, see, I'm busy? That had been the last joke he told her. She forced herself to pretend laugh, and she cried capriciously when he pressed a envelope full of cash in her hand. "Take care of the kids until child services arrive," he asked pleadingly. Maya had nodded. She didn't have the heart to tell him that child services couldn't keep up with the orphaned kids. She took care of Donnie, Parker, and Aurora until the end. She reached to the fridge and a fruit cup now. Maya looked if the memories of her happy times in this room had really been in this lifetime. It seems like it had happened another Maya. Maybe one of those parallel realities Jackson used to like to talk about. Maya froze with one hand in the fridge. Parallel reality. Was this real? She returned to a what-if question that had been nagging her ever since she looked up the stars. What if this wasn't real? After all, how could it be real? Everyone dying of cancer? The streets filled with fast-growing jelly beans? What if she was still in the AR booth? If she was, how could she tell? She thought back to her big, accumulating birthday bash. She partied with a crowd of well-wishers. It hadn't felt virtual at all. It had seemed so real as if anything else she had ever experienced. So how did she know this was real? Maya grabbed a fruit cup and pulled her hand from the fridge. She closed the fridge door in a muddy thwamp. The fridge hummed, and Maya reminded where she was. And mesmerized with the sound until a thud came from the back of the house. Maya jerked herself out of the trance, quickly grabbed a bag of medicine from the top, and trotted out of the kitchen. It sounded like Donnie had fallen out of bed. She hurried to his room. Sure enough, Donnie was on the floor. "What are you doing down there, bud?" Maya asked him brightly, as if his face wasn't contorted in pain, as if his lips weren't cracked, as if he wasn't as skeletal as Cavender. Donnie mumbled something as he sounded like brr. But didn't she know she was trying to eat dropped Bert, his stuffed alligator? Maya picked up the fallen, scaly-encrusted plush toy. Then she effortlessly lifted what was left of the rumbling little boy she used to play hide-and-seek with. "Can you eat some fruit?" she asked, holding up the fruit cup. Donnie shook his head. Maya sighed and switched out his intimidation bag. She glanced at her watch as she did. She had to get back home. Anya had been without meds for too long. And as she tried to get something in April next, so on the way she could check on the Davis twins. Maya set the fruit cup at Donnie's nightstand. She tucked Bert under Donnie's leg's arm. "I'll be back, kiddo," she told him. He blinked up at her. His eyes shifted, as if he was realizing who she was. For a second, his face looked more animated, weakly. He lifted a hand and pointed across the room. Maya turned and scanned the shelves that hang that wall up beside Donnie's bed. What was he pointing at? "Chris," Donnie said. Maya glanced at his face. His expression was intense. He was determined that she understood. Maya crossed to the shelves and she saw it. There was a clumsily wrapped package with her name on it on the shelf. With a shaking hand, she picked it up. A piece of red folded construction paper was taped in the package. She opened the paper and read, "Happy birthday, Maya." She recognized Donnie's large, crooked letters. Maya looked back at Donnie. He was watching her with more intensity than she'd seen him in days. She returned to his bed and opened the package, pulling out a vase, a tin can sprayed with gold and decorated with gold palette rocks. She discovered that her tears hadn't dried up after all. They spilled from her eyes and escalated down her cheeks as she looked at Donnie's strained but eager face. "This is beautiful," she exclaimed. Donnie blinked, then he closed his eyes, satisfied. Maya realized the gift must have been sitting there since her 17th non-birthday. She'd probably forgotten about it. Why had he reminded it now? Wiping her eyes, Leon leaned down and kissed Donnie's forehead. She held the vase against her heart, and she left the room. Back in the kitchen, Maya squashed water on her face. She grabbed her tote bags, tucking the vase in with the medicine. She glanced out the kitchen window and tensed when she saw how many more jelly people were in the Thompsons' front yard. She was going to have to sneak out the back door and go down the alley. She slipped into the utility room off the kitchen and gingerly cracked open the door. Maya exhaled in relief. The Thompsons' backyard was empty with the mannequin things. She stepped out the house and closed and locked the door behind her. Trotting in the back of the property, she eased with the alleyway. She froze. Here, the way wasn't so clear. The alley was thick with the clear-skinned creatures. There would be no way to avoid them completely. They didn't form a solid mass, though. Maya figured she was able to weave her way around them. She took a deep breath, and she took off with a fast jog. 6 houses stood between Thompson's house and Maya's home. The first one belonged to Mr. Vance, the mean old man who kicked his dog. Maya glanced at his back window as she passed it, and she nearly stumbled when she saw him watching her. He was still alive? She thought all the old people were dead. The man was probably too ignorant to die, she thought, as she picked up her pace. The Davis twins were 2 doors down from her. It only took her a few seconds to get to their back fence. Unfortunately, though, the back of the Davis house was surrounded by the see-through skins. Maya's pace faltered. Should she try it? Studying the creatures around the Davis house, Maya thought she saw a path through them, but then, as she walked, the path disappeared. The things were producing faster and faster now, right before Maya's eyes. This was as close as she'd ever been to them when she turned more of themselves. She could actually see their jiggling mass convulsing before ejecting new, smaller versions of themselves. They did this over and over. They were spawning. No, she couldn't risk going to the Davis house. She needed to get to Alina and her cousin sooner rather than later. The twins would have to wait. Maya picked up her pace again. Maya dodged around a horde of jelly creatures. Then she ran full out in the back of her house. There she was in dismay to see that her beloved garden was buried in gelatin people things. There was barely enough room for her to zip past them and get in her back door. As she passed the last of the creatures before fumbling the door open, she brushed against them. The cold, oily feel of the thing's skin made her shudder. Bell rose up in the back of her throat. She swallowed it down and slammed the door closed. She bolted and leaned against its solid wooden planks, her chest heaving. For several seconds, Maya couldn't move. Her own limbs felt as unstable as those of the things outside her door. A faint cry coming from her parents' room got her going again. "I'm coming!" she called. She couldn't tell if it was Axel or April who had cried out. When she got into the room, she realized it was April. Axel was unconscious, his little fists curled tightly around the top of the dirty blanket that covered him. Maya cringed at the sight of the filth. She had to find time to wash liniens and get everyone cleaned up. Rushing to April's side, Maya dropped the tots and picked up the pudding container she left for the little girl. It hadn't been opened, of course. April thrashed in the bed, a painful grimace on her face. Maya grabbed April and wrapped her in a hug. "I'm here, Nina, I'm here." April moaned and cried out again. Maya brushed April's wet, matted hair from the clumsy forehead. She rocked the child in her arms and started humming a lullaby. Maya wasn't sure how long she'd hum or rock. Quite a while, she decided, when she realized that one of her arms had gone numb from supporting April's weight. Maya seized her cousin back in the bed. Then she looked over to Axel. Axel's fists were no longer clenched. His little hands were slack. So was his face. He was gone. Maya closed her eyes, waiting for the tears to flow again. They didn't come. Maybe she used her reserves when she saw Donnie's gift. Opening her eyes, she leaned over and kissed Axel's already cooling skin. "Goodbye, my sweet boy," she whispered. Her spirit was as numb as her arms. Maya stood. She turned and left her parents' room, straightening her shoulders. She headed down the hall to check Alina. Would she be gone too? Would it be so bad if she was? Just outside her doorway, Maya snuck to the floor. She closed her eyes and left her head fall back against the wall with a thunk. She barely felt the impact. She couldn't do it anymore. Who was she kidding? There was no way she could keep up with trying to feed and medicate the people that were left for her to care for. What was the point? Everyone was going to die. Everyone but Maya. Maya opened her eyes. Why wasn't she getting sick? Why did it seem to be happening to everyone around her? As if she was the focal point of everything. Just like she'd been with her birthday party. Maybe she was still in the AR unit. Maya touched her forehead, where the faint pain was still discernible. She'd been far too busy to pay attention to it, but it was there. Was it there because the headband was still in place? Maya shook her head. No, it's just so intense to be part of some kind of computer-generated scenario. But why is it happening? Had the AR booth somehow amalgamated a whole world, or had she jumped into a parallel universe? Maya sighed. She didn't know enough to answer these questions. Probably no one did. Maya stood. She had to stop feeling sorry for herself and still needed to check on Alina. Even if Alina was going to die, she deserves as much comfort as Maya could offer until then. Maya glanced at the bedroom window as she crossed to Alina's bed, and she wished she didn't. Just in time she spent in the hallway, the jelly beings outside her house had multiplied alarmingly. A mountain of them was pressing against the house, as if trying to merge with the dwelling. Maya stared at the fragile glass covering the window. Maybe the threat she felt sliding along with the jelly creatures had finally arrived. But what could she do about it? Maya decided to play ostrich, out of sight, out of mind. She turned her back to the window and went to her sister's side. Alina was so still that Maya thought she was gone. She felt her sister's fragile wrist. No, Alina was alive. Barely. A faint pulse fluttered against her thin skin. Without looking at the window, Maya reached into one of her tots bags and pulled out a bag of medicine. She cooked it up and checked the rate of the drip. She wasn't sure why she bothered. Alina was obviously unconscious, and she would probably pass away without waking up. But Maya needed to feel like she was doing something. Maya was starting to lie down on the bed next to her sister when the window behind her shattered. Maya spun around as a series of loud cracks and crackle sounds throughout the house. She screamed. The jelly beings were no longer pressing against the house. They were pouring into the house, through the broken windows, skulking around, the jagged opening like a transparent octopus with infinite numbers of legs. The aggression of vicious humanoids were more liquid than solid. The flow in the room was as if they were ghastly jellyfish tsunamis sprawling up on the beach. Maya whirled towards Alina. She bent over to lift her sister, but she realized immediately that Alina was no longer breathing. Her hardly there was a pulse was gone. Maya didn't want to leave her sister's body in the room, but when something slick started to encirculate Maya's ankle, she couldn't think anymore. All she could do was react. She turned and ran from the room. Barely down the hall, Marine careened around and cornered towards the kitchen. She didn't have a solid plan in her head, but some part of her mind thought if she could get in the garage, she would be safe. The garage had no windows, and both the garage door and the main door were thick and strong. How long could she hold out in there? She didn't think that far ahead. All she wanted to do now was to get away from the squishy mash of gel humanoids. She always thought that things were mindless, but now she wondered, did they had intentions? And if they did, what did they want? Maya glanced into the kitchen. She gasped. The kitchen was filled with creatures. She looked to her left. So was the living room. All the windows in the house were shattered. The front door had been smashed open. The doll things were thumping towards her from all directions. Even though each individual jelly thing didn't take action on its own, except to push more out jelly things, the conquering of them create movement. They were like squakes of dirt. One of them might be harmless, but combined together, they had enough weight and force to bury her if they castled over her. If the things did have intention, it was a communal one, and it didn't appear to be a good one. They were slowly but surely surrounding her. Maya lunged to the door leading to the garage. She flung it open, leaping into the darkness before slamming the door closed behind her. Instantly, she realized her mistake. When she left the house earlier, she hadn't closed the garage door fast enough. Some of the creatures had obviously fallen in before the door had come down. Maya was overtaken by squishy, cold, slimy mass. The sensation was disgusting. It felt like she'd thrown herself into a bowl of sticky rice noodles. The jelly beans filled the garage, and now they were incorporating Maya as if she was essentially missing part of their collection. They entwined around her, merging with her, smothering her. Seeking comfort and strength, Maya groped for her gold rose. When she found it, she clenched her fists around it, trying to fill herself with the love it represents. If only it was a magic rose, like Ruby Rose that could transform her back to Maya's mouth and nose filled with the mandible mush of creature that embraced her. She struggled to get air, except each prayer to be her last. But her last breath didn't come. The spongy, ever-expanding wave bulged above her, and it felt like her body wouldn't be able to take the pressure any longer, but it did. Maya couldn't see anything. She couldn't hear or smell anything. She's gone beyond feeling too. All she was aware is that was the force above her, and when she was becoming too much of her mind to comprehend, why wasn't she dead? When would this be over? Maya tried to inhale and couldn't. Hopefully this would end soon. Or would it?